And on the line at the moment, we got Bomber Badel. How are you, mate?
G'day, boys.
Well, it's been a busy couple of weeks for yourself. We've had Origin, we've got through that, but the Brisbane Broncos are dominating headlines once again, mate. What are you hearing out of the Broncos?
Well, guys, look, I think there's obviously a lot of hysteria. There's a lot of noise swirling around the Broncos at the moment, and rightly so, given their predicament. I mean, 6 losses from 7 starts. I thought their performance on Saturday night was their worst of the season so far. So, look, there's a lot of questions that will rightly be asked, but I think the key, Cozza, is the Broncos just have to hold their nerve right now, and they've got to find some fight and character. And look, guys, I made some calls yesterday to people at the Broncos, and it was their scheduled day off yesterday. And I'm told the whole squad are in there doing extras. So if it's an unhappy team, they're clearly still trying to put in, because every player reported for training yesterday when they didn't have to. So To me, that's a promising sign that this group is still committed, but the season is slipping away and they need to get some fight pretty quickly, or this will be another wasted season.
Bomber, we hear so often on the 24/7 media cycle that's on, and there's different people driving different agendas right across all forms of sport, but we're hearing whispers or there's rumours that the players are all unhappy. You just touched on it there. A day off and players are in there doing extras would suggest to me that the players aren't unhappy. So why do these rumours / whispers from certain individuals keep coming out?
Well, Cozza, look, people get mail from different areas, and look, I'm not saying I know everything that happens at the Broncos, but look, I've had numerous chats with Michael Maguire in the last few weeks, both on the record, as a journalist at press conferences, and then we obviously I talk to him sometimes off the record to check injuries and see what's going on at the club, and he's always told me he doesn't see any semblance of discontent, and he says to me he meets with the senior players every week, and they have a large say, and they're big drivers in the culture that they want and the training that they want to do. And he's told me that people like Payne Haas say, we want to win. We're here to win premierships, and we'll do whatever it takes to get it done. So if they're an unhappy group, maybe they are based on the performances, but maybe also, Cozza, it takes time to turn the ship around. And let's face it, they finished 12th last year, so they need to get moving quickly, because if they don't, the heat will rightly be on Michael Maguire. But I'm still hopeful for all Broncos fans that they can turn it around. Yeah,
you mentioned Payne Haas there. Obviously, a leading story just a couple of days ago was the fact that Payne Haas is off contract, given the fact that there's every club has their players off contract, is available to all journos that are out there. He was no different. But again, it was just a big story. It's just where the Broncos are at the moment, isn't it? Because I don't see Payne Haas leaving the Broncos whatsoever. I spoke to Dave Donaghy myself. He was intimated the same sort of same thoughts.
Well, Cozza, look, he's on $1.2 million at the moment at the Broncos. He's one of the highest paid players in the game. So he's going to have to be offered $1.5 to $2 million to either consider leaving. And then, as we know, there's obviously his family issues. I mean, he's got the custody of his 2 younger brothers. His parents are in jail. His dad's overseas facing drugs charges. He's just had a baby son, so he's got 2 young kids himself. So it'd be a huge logistical shift for him to move to go to Perth, for example. But look, Cozza, I think you've been in this predicament yourself at the Broncos. There's no other club in the game that feels the furnace like the Broncos when times are tough, because they're such a massive brand. And the ultimate currency, guys, is winning. If Brisbane start winning and get on a roll, then all of a sudden people will be saying Michael Maguire's tough edge is working. So really, it's on the players now to start having a crack and start winning games.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier about the Broncos need to hold their nerve. What are you hearing in regards to the team personnel, as in, selections, team selections? We saw a couple of changes against the Sea Eagles. You saw Pakes go into the starting signs, Courier. Do we see the same side getting rolled out as team was Tuesday this afternoon, do we hear?
Yeah, it's a good question, Cozza. Look, I'm hearing that Reece Walsh has a chance of returning this week. So he was meant to come back last week, and then he tweaked his knee slightly at training last week, and they've put him back. Now, at the moment, he's due to return against Cronulla in round 16 after the bye. So they'll have the Titans this week, then the bye, then the Sharks. Now, I'm told that he's a 50-50 chance of playing this week. They'll just see how he goes at training, but Michael Maguire's going to give him until the captain's run on Friday to make himself available. So he could play this week, and the other one for me, Cozzer, I know you're a fan of Kobe Hetherington, but he only had 3 runs last week at lock, and I wonder if maybe Pat Carrigan should go back to his beloved 13 jumper, but that's something that Michael Maguire is also pondering.
Yeah, there's some of our listeners have thought exactly the same way. There's one here. Morning, boys. Ask Pete and Crash about the new article on Code Sport. Alarming statistics that you've just touched on about Kobe not being able to have a huge influence in regards to running the football, which you've already sort of made mention of. But what about in the Origin arena, mate? What are you hearing in regards to like a Daly Terry Evans who's been under threat, particularly after the loss of last year's series and the loss of Game 1?
Well, yeah, there's been some whispers, boys, about Daly being, I guess, a dead man walking, and that I guess the emphatic answer was his response last week against the Broncos. He was outstanding with 3 try assists, and his kicking game was unbelievable. So, look, I know that Billy Slay would be considering Tom Dearden as a starting 7, but I get the feeling that if he holds his form, Daly, I think it's a case of one more chance, and if you fail again, then we lose the series and we start the new generation, a bit like Cameron Smith way back in 2003 when Maroons were down 2-0 and they blooded all these new kids. So I think if Daly can't get the job done in Perth, Cozzer and Heels, then they need to look to the future. But I'd give him one more crack.
Yeah, I know time is of the essence for yourself, mate, so we'll keep it short. But just one last one. We've been sort of talking this morning about leadership, if we're referring to the Broncos, and the fact that we haven't really seen or heard from anyone of the top leaders, that being the CEO or the chairman and the like. Do you think the fans need to see that, or Broncos just continually walk forward how they are?
No, it's a good point, Cousin. I think Dave Donaghy, the CEO, or the chairman, Carl Morris, I think they need to come out on the front foot with a strong message. And I think in times of adversity, it's important to see the leaders of the club taking a bullet for the players almost and showing the players that they're also accountable. So I think it'll be pretty prudent for Dave Donaghy, the CEO, to come out at this point in time. It's midway through the season, do a half-season report card, and also answer some of the tough questions that players shouldn't have to answer. And if there's questions about cultural issues, dressing room unrest, they're the sort of questions that the CEO should answer. And I think in the coming days, I think Dave Donaghy has to come out. I think he will at some point, but it remains to be seen. We haven't heard from him yet, but let's hope we do.
As the text comes through from Josh, Pete, I understand the Broncos have 14 players off contract this year, needing to re-sign Renault, Staggs, Cobbo potentially. But where does Madge look and recruit to fill the other 11 players are vying for contracts? What are you hearing in regards to some of these contracts? Renault a couple of weeks ago was heavy in the spotlight for re-signing. Cobbo still not done. Staggs still not done. Plenty of people still unsigned for next year.
Yeah, well, guys, it's not easy just to turn over a whole roster in one season. As Cam Sorialdo found out at the Bulldogs, it took him 2 years to get the squad he wanted. Look, of the Broncos at the moment, of those 14, I can tell you Blake Moser and Staggs are on that list. But Blake Moser's agreed to terms on a 2-year deal. That's been done. They just need to register the contract, so he's staying.
Yes.
Tony Staggs will stay on a 3 or 4 year deal. They're in the final stages, but he's definitely not leaving. And then the big one for me, guys, is Selwyn Cobbo. I just don't know if Brisbane can afford him. They haven't tabled an offer as yet. And maybe he's the one guy that misses out unless he signs a 1 year cheaper deal and then looks to a bigger deal for Perth or PNG. But look, I think that also gives them some flexibility, guys. I mean, a guy like Fletcher Baker's off contract, Kobe Hetherington's off contract. Maybe they move on Fletcher Baker and look to the market to bolster their stocks. But of the 14, I think you'll find most of them will stay. And obviously then there's Renault. They need to work out how much he can stay for next year and whether he even wants to play on if his form is good enough to do so.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much, Pete. We appreciate your time at late notice this morning, mate.
Thanks, Pete.
No. Anytime, boys, anytime.
Hey, the other hot topic was on TV again last night. Lachlan Galvin took it on.
He did.
No areas were out of bounds other than the legal case, which is a bit interesting. So he wasn't allowed to talk about the legal case of the safe environment alleged against the West Tigers. So that got a bit of a shutdown. But generally, he talked about everything. The number one, joining the Bulldogs.
No, I just think he's a real leader. I think he's driving standards here that are pretty cool and something obviously I want to be a part of. So getting to know him more and more as the season goes on and for the next 3 years that I'm here for is going to be pretty cool. And I can't wait to be having conversations in his office, hopefully good ones. But just how much grit they show, I think it's pretty cool. They're always here for each other. All the boys have got each other's back. So obviously the supporters as well, how they turn out for the boys is pretty cool. So obviously, like I've said, it's something I want to be a part of. And I just want to keep working hard and getting in here and learning all their systems. And
It was all Ciro this, Ciro that. I'm thinking, Paul Sirenen, is he at the Bulldogs? But it's Ciraldo, right?
Yeah.
So they've spent good time talking together. There's a lot of love there. There's no hurry to play first grade. He's happy to do whatever they want him to do.
Yeah.
To learn their systems and all that sort of stuff.
He'll be in next game.
Yep, maybe. And then there's Crido.
Crido or Critter.
That's the leader that he wants to really play with for his development. So he really wants to pick his brains as well. It was all lovey-dovey there. And quite respectful of the West Tigers, I thought.
He's a nice kid, all right? And everyone's formed a perception of Lachlan Galvin, the way everything's been handled. People blaming his manager, that it was sort of rammed down his throat, that he had to get out of there, etc. I actually asked him about the switch and if it was a manager-driven switch.
This whole thing was my decision. I had told Isaac what I wanted, and he says yes, and that's basically it. I've ran this thing. I've backed myself, and I'm a pretty confident kid in that way. I've chose what I've wanted, and obviously we've got all this backlash from it, and I'll take that on the chin because it's something I've driven.
How good is that? This kid, 19 years of age, he has led papers front and back over the last couple of weeks. And he's front and centre, happy to take any question he needs in regards to that. I thought it was very good.
And very crafty. Like, what do you call it?
Like crafty. The way he plays.
Yeah, well, because they said, no, we're not releasing you. We don't want you to go. You're going to stay till the end of next year. And then they came up with the unsafe environment side of things. Did he pull that off too? You know what? Or did the?
Well,
he's saying he got on well. It's nothing against Benji, nothing against Richo, and then so Danny Wadley asked you about the Luai post and all those posts, and he said, "Oh no, not as bad as they made out."
That's probably something I can't really talk about at the moment. Leaving the club, we obviously had an agreement where there's some things we probably can't talk about, and that's probably obviously one of the things we can't talk about. So I'll leave that.
So he handled that, right? So he got asked from the journo, which the journo's always going to ask a 19-year-old kid, hoping he may just trip up and fall over and answer it. But, there's a legal case going on, and then there was they'd signed off that there'd be no more talk in and around that space. But I thought he handled himself right. And, for whatever your thoughts are, it's all done. It's all put to bed. Lachlan Galvin's over at the Bulldogs, and he'll be playing for the Bulldogs, I would think, very, very soon.
Okay. But he still had to touch on Benji.
I'm so grateful for Benji giving me my debut and, putting faith in me to play my skill and play my footy. He's a great fella. He's actually a great bloke, and nothing bad towards Benji.
Did you feel that was misinterpreted?
Yeah, I thought it was misinterpreted a bit, but at the end of the day, people are going to have their opinion, and they're allowed to have that.
Yeah, they certainly are. I thought it was interesting what he spoke about Luai.
Me and Jerome got on fine. We probably weren't going over each other's houses, having sleepovers and that, because
not every teammate's like that.
100%. Like, we were only together for a short period of time, but we always got on. We always spoke. We always talked, and people like to think that we never got on.
What was being said was that you were jealous of Jerome because he came into the side and got to be the big dog. Did you feel jilted or slighted?
I never walked in once into Concord thinking, stuff him, he's coming here and taking all the reins and all that. I never thought that once.
And didn't have to, because he was in control, wasn't he? He was totally in control. They'd placed this massive extension on the table, and he just knocked it straight back.
Well, he didn't even.
Yeah, money was really never a massive thing of playing. That was never really me. I just played because I loved the game, played with my brothers in the backyard and that. So people are going to see that and think, that's stupid. You could have set your life up or whatever.
Yeah, look.
What do you think of when you hear that? 750 is not enough to set your life up.
Well, that's the thing, and everyone had an opinion because when they first met with the Tigers, they intimated that they didn't want, and he was going to leave. and they didn't want an offer. And it was the fact that the Tigers come back and I think from a optics point of view offered him this contract, which they'd already said, doesn't matter what it is, we're leaving. So they offered him over $1 million and he signed for around $750 at 19 years of age after a year and a bit of first grade. That's not bad cabbage.
That's
Jeez.
right.
Oh, my goodness.
I'll set my
I mean, he's
life
only
up
going to go
after that.
north of that. He's a terrific player. But I thought he handled himself really, really well. For the first time, I mean, you talk about people fronting up. He certainly did that. And he has been front and centre in Sydney, sort of media over the last 2-3 weeks, Heels. And I thought he's done that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, he's all done and dusted. He is going to be a Bulldog, and I think you'll see him very soon, actually.
Okay, and you're one that could cope with what he's now going to have to cope with most of his career, the chance of opposition fans, and especially his old fans. So you just screw your face up and go, I'd hate that. I'd hate to play in front of a fan base that don't want me.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to. No. I mean, is there a more parochial fan base than the Bulldogs? Like they are very, very good.
Yes.
Their fan base. The only fan base at any stage when he goes is with the Bulldogs play the Tigers at, say, Leichhardt. He may get a bit of pushback from. But, at the end of the day, he's moved on. Like, you think that'll hang around for a while?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, as it did DCE around those years. But
that was 10 years ago.
So he's just got to put up with that. Yeah. And he was happy with that. He said, I'm happy. I'll have to cop it. I don't like my family copping it, but that has happened as well.
That's sport, though, right? That's sport right across the world, not only just for the NRL. It's interesting. I don't think he'll be sending Jerome Luai a Christmas card by his answer there before.
No, but you might have a little coffee together one day. But just
I
before
doubt
Christmas.
it.
Just before Christmas. Well, I don't reckon they were too bad. They're all right. They'll sit at the same table at lunch.
No.
Not now, maybe.
No.
But they
No,
were. They
that's
were
not
in
how
the
I picked up
cafeteria.
on that. But, yeah. Look, ultimately it's all
Benji,
done.
great bloke, great coach. So I think he's been a very clever manoeuvrer for a 19-year-old.
I think he handled himself good. I think he handled himself really, really good, and I think you'll see him in the blue and white moving forward in the very near future, which obviously poses a question about Sexton and where's he going to go. They haven't signed him, and that doesn't look like they're going to sign him. So
another thing is he got asked last night, "Can you play 7?" Yes, I can. But he also said through yesterday somewhere that the one he would like to play inside Crichton.
Well,
I'm looking forward to playing inside Crichton.
Yeah,
he plays on the right side. That's right.
Yeah.
So, what's that? What's that mean?
Well, it means he plays 6.
Yeah, who's 6
or
at the
7,
moment?
one of the two. He can play whatever. Like Lachlan Galvin, he's 19 years of age, and for the people, I don't know him. I've never met Lachlan Galvin, but what I do know of him and people that do know him, he is an absolute sponge of the game.
Football,
loves it. Goes through all the video, watches all the stuff unbelievably across for such a young kid, what the game requires in the technical space. And then when we see him play on the big stage, we've seen what he can do.
He's got some speed for a tall, lanky number, hasn't he? So that's good. Suncorp Insurance, thanks again with Queensland every step of the way. And Brighton Homes include aircon, flooring, steel frames and solar as standard. Drop into a display home today and discover why it's better with Brighton. And coming up, we've got Crash. We'll ask Crash further questions like we did.
Yeah, we do have Crash. Anthony's text through. He said, that's disappointing, hearing off the back of Pete Badel, that most of the 14 off contract will stay. I don't think that's going to be the case. Madge has a real opportunity to bring in a few players that aren't going to bring this style of football. In my mind, they need a firebrand middle and more depth in the back row. That's from Anthony. So we'll
They're just floating around?
Pardon?
They're just floating around?
Yeah, just
firebrand middles?
You just pick them off the shelf. Yeah. You just go to F and, firebrand middles, pull them off the shelf and get them to the Broncos. So,
Darrell's gone long again. The loss of 3 of the Brisbane Broncos players after the 2023 Grand Final disaster has impacted clearly and dearly on the club and players. I reckon the loss of Kurt Capewell in particular meant the team lost a leader with premiership experience. He's now in his second year at the Warriors and they're currently in top 4 and going gangbusters with Fisher Harris also joining from the Panthers. Ben Hunt's signing this year has not had the expected effect yet, and he's not won a premiership. The Bulldogs have also benefited from ex-Panthers leadership experience. Kick our Crichton to be the top dogs currently. Also, Brisbane Broncos management suffered more than has been admitted when Ben Ikin left the ranks in May 2023 to become the QRL CEO. Experience, you need to keep it.